Okay. Hello, Chad Ferrin. Tell the genre fans out there and movie fans in general why they might enjoy your movie Nightcrawler.
Well, if they're looking for a politically incorrect throwback to the 70s and 80s, then Nightcrawler's their bag. I mean, it's gruesome, it's gory, it's offensive, it's mean, it's all the things that you miss from the glory days of horror cinema.
Okay, I felt that all those things are true, and other things are also going on there. I think like the whole mystical element is pretty interesting too.
Sure. No, I think that's one of the things that, kind of started the whole idea of it, was kind of combining the elements of like Don't Look Now or Seance on a Wet Afternoon, or things that have a little, that psychic thing is always intriguing, but then taking the cheap aspect of it with the 1-900 phone numbers from the 90s, you would call late at night and to find your future and all that kind of stuff, and kind of working that into, a stalk and slash kind of a thing for me was what hooked me originally to kind of started working on it. So it was one of those things, and then kind of writing that around what I had and kind of the money that we might be able to get. It was kind of just at first you throw everything against the wall that you love and you do, and then you kind of work it down from there of budget wise what you have and what you can do to pull it off.
But there's a lot of things like this, like psychic clues, and it's like it's like the glue to the structure of this movie. Am I right?
Sure. Totally. And that's what, and that was one of the fun parts of, you can kind of go outside of, you could change your fate per se, you could do these things, and is it real, is it not real, is it her vision of what, so it gave you a little more things to go, directions to go artistically, that you're like, okay, that works, or that's interesting, or he doesn't get killed. It kind of gave you room to play, and that was kind of fun and exciting for, you're not just your typical, stalk and slash kind of thing. You had, like you said, a supernatural element that gave it more of a little intrigue, I guess you could say.
Definitely. So tell people, so some of the filmmakers and some of the occultists that this movie's in debt to.
Fulci, Argento, Mario Bava, Lustig, Friedkin. I mean, all the things that, I'm a huge fan of Cruising, with Al Pacino. And it just has such a grit and a grime to it that was one of the big elements that I wanted to intertwine in this one, was, that you felt, kind of just dirty. And that was one of the actually the choices, with when we shot on with the Blackmagic camera, because it had this really 16 millimeter look that gave it this grit and this grain, and you really didn't have to do anything in post to give it that. It naturally captured that in the most, kind of cinematic way that really fit not only the story, but my love of film in general. I mean, I can't stand video or things that look video-ish or high definition. To me, I really just like that film feel and look that, Blackmagic is a great camera for that, especially the grain that you were able to get out of it.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. So do you spend a long time mapping things out visually through storyboards? No?
No,
really.
I'm basically on this. We did have some storyboards because my dear friend Scott Vogel, who acts in this as and has been in numerous other films of mine. I'll say, hey, could you draw up some storyboards for this scene if I think that will help raise more money? So for me, and usually it kind of does, because people are like, oh wow, those are great storyboards and visually this is great. But 9 times out of 10, when you get to the location to follow those storyboards, it's completely different than, and 9 times out of 10, it's not usable or only parts of it. And for me, I'm always willing and open to bend to not only the location or the time frame or the actor or whatever it is that makes the scene work, instead of being, tied to a storyboard. I think storyboards are great, especially for an action thing or whatever, but a lot of the times I've, been unable to really get them just because of the time constraint and, again, the location and whatever, because when you're making, a low budget movie, you've got, 10 days to do, 10 pages a day and get it in and out of there. And, you have to be willing to give up not only your vision of what you thought was perfect, if it's not working in the time frame and the budget and whatever you have, and just being and just saying, hey, well, instead of all, there's 5 shots, let's get it in 2, one move this way and that way, and we're done and we're out of here and we're on to the next scene. And you're, instead of just saying, following this storyboard completely to a T and then losing time that you could be getting on another scene or whatever it might be. So I just have, on a low budget thing, I find it's easier to just kind of being flexible on what you need to get and to tell the story and make it work in the time you have to do that. And
I remember
times,
I remember Herzog said that Werner Herzog said that storyboards are for cowards.
No, I love that. But I think at the same time, if you got some big Michael Bay action scene, then I guess it probably helps to know, okay, well, we've got an explosion there and the van's got to go through there. So it might work for those things. But storyboarding a whole movie, I think, is not needed unless it's something that that's the kind of director you are. And if it works for you, great. My hat's off. For me, it doesn't. I mean, I actually I don't even do shot lists anymore. I just kind of, I'll write a script and have, if there's a certain way I have, like the camera is one move and it pans down or whatever, that'll be in the script and we'll try to get that. But most of the time I just kind of get there and look at the location, we go run through it and we do a blocking and I'm like, okay, we just need this, this, and that, and then we're out. Because which also helps that I edit my films, so I know exactly if we have it when we get there. I rarely ever have to do reshoots or retakes. It's all just kind of once we shoot it and I'm there and I get in the editing room, it usually works 9 times out of 10 and I don't need anything else because instinctively I know what I want, especially if I wrote the script and I'm editing it and I'm right there next to the DP as we're shooting it, so I know what we have and what we need. And so far it's worked pretty well that way.
Nice. So this is my first movie that I've seen that you've made, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Great.
Do your other movies look and feel like this one, or does this one kind of stand out?
I think there's all elements within them that you can go, oh, that's mine. But I think this one is definitely meaner. It's got the but they're all in some way, shape, or form definitely have the same kind of voice, I guess you could say, in one way, shape, or form. There's they're different. I try to at least not only artistically improve upon something, whether it be a story or the camera work or whatever it is on the previous film, but they all kind of have the same. I think you could hopefully tell that I had done it. And, so I guess that is a goal that I shoot for, that at least it has, a pinging of my voice or whatever, my style or whatever you might want to call it.
Nice. So do you view yourself more as a director or more as a writer?
For me, writing was always kind of a necessity for it, because I couldn't, when I started out, I couldn't afford to hire someone to write it. So I just kind of dove in and let it happen. And then when you get on set and you're like, okay, this is what I need, this is what I got. And it's like, you're quickly, the real world comes in on you that you can't get that for that budget or do that or that. So I've started just kind of writing my scripts around what I know I have, what I know I can achieve, and trying to kind of get it in that Corman style of, okay, write what you know, what you got, and the time frame you got to do it, and try to make that look as big and as good as you can for that budget. And it's hard, but at the same time, it makes you think outside the box and come up with ways that you not necessarily would have thought of if you knew that you've got an hour to shoot a girl being scalped and you've only got this, that, and the other thing to do it. And thinking on your feet and getting it done in that amount of time has always been daunting, but at the same time exciting. And I think that keeps the energy. And if you've got everyone, cast and crew, on that same page, you can have a lot of fun doing it. And you leave the day like, okay, we got it. That was great. That was fun. Now tomorrow's another 10 pages that we got to get done. We got to do it this way and got to do it that way. And if everybody's on that page and doing it correctly, it'll move smoothly. If one of those people from a PA to a whatever is a pain in the ass or is not getting that and complaining, it can derail the whole project, which again shows what a collaborative effort filmmaking is, and which I always try to involve everyone from the lowest rung of the ladder to the top, a voice in how things should be done. And if you're on that page from the same page from the get-go, it should be smooth because you're all have that same excitement and that same energy, instead of one person being like, huh, why am I here? This, why I'm not getting paid enough? Because that kind of shit is infectious. And if you start with a group that's all on the same page and the excitement level, you'll not only have a fun time doing it, but you might really get some gold within the scenes or with whatever that might not even be on the page or whatever it is, and having a good time at the end of the day doing it.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever find there are some psychological disadvantages by making extreme movies?
Well, I had a pretty messed up childhood, and so I kind of, I guess it comes from, my upbringing and the films that I gravitated to as a kid, and those kind of like the supernatural element or horror element or things that you just like it for whatever reason. You love reading Richard Matheson or, watching The Twilight Zone, or these things that you just love since a kid, and those seep into just who you are, and you instinctively just write them into a script or whatever it works for you. And, I don't cop out on what I think might offend someone or whatever it is. I just, if I like it, I write it. And if we film it and it works, and then it's just what it is. And you hope that people aren't going to judge and say, oh, that's offensive, let's not show it, or this. But it's just a movie when it comes down to the end. We're not hurting animals, we're not beating children, we're not doing all those things that you can stop and say it's just a fucking movie. I mean, it should, if it offends someone, that's great because it's pushing buttons or whatever it is. And you should be able to step aside and say, well, it's just a movie, I don't like it, I won't watch it, instead of saying it should be banned or whatever it is. But artistically, it's just kind of what molded me. My youth growing up watching Betamax movies and Spectravision or whatever it might be, that kind of you saw as a kid, and you're like, okay, that stuck with me to the point where I'm borrowing scenes from Maniac or New York Ripper or whatever it might be, or Cruising, and you just kind of, that's just what it is. And I hope other people enjoy it as much as I did making it or writing it or whatever it might be.
Nice. I like that answer. It was good stuff. Elaborate answer. So Chad, thanks for talking to me today. Are you excited for the wide release of Nightcaller?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see how people whether they love it or hate it. It's one of those things. It played very well at the festivals, and one of those things, and you just hope that transcends to a mainstream audience that is able to like, hey, I love that, and and they're willing to talk about it instead of just saying, oh, this is the worst movie I ever saw. I would love people to explain why it's the worst movie, because a lot of things that someone might hate, like they say Ed Wood is the worst filmmaker ever, and I find that to be just bullshit, because a lot of Ed Wood films, there is some amazing stuff in there, especially when you stop and think of the time they had to do it, the money they had to do it, and you think it's like, okay, at least that shot there is great, or Bela Lugosi is fantastic in that, or whatever it is. So I try not to just kind of disregard any movie that I see as, oh, that's the worst movie ever. I start to kind of, I watch it with a critical eye, but at the same time, I'm able to respect certain things a filmmaker might do, or a nod in Nightcaller to Patrick, or, House on Haunted Hill, or things like that, that you're like, hey, I think the movie's a big steaming pile of shit, but boy, I loved how they had Patrick in there.
Right.
So, I hope the audience digs it, or at least digs elements of it, and just says it's not, another remake or another, Marvel film. It's something that at least took some, a different direction that people were expecting.
All right. Well, lots of luck, buddy.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. That was fun.
Great, thank you.
I'll send you that.
All right. Be well.